Now, earlier this hour, the energy regulator Ofgem announced that household energy bills will fall by around £238 a year from April under the latest limits imposed on suppliers.
Yeah, the price cap will drop from its current rate of £1,928 a year to £1,690. That starts on the 1st of April. These changes will reduce energy bills to their lowest level in 2 years.
So let's get the reaction from energy expert Will Hodgson and coordinator for End Fuel Poverty Coalition Simon Francis, who both join us now. Hello to you both. Will, firstly, your immediate reaction to this cut, the energy price cap, a 12% cut in bills. Is that what we were expecting?
It's what we're expecting. And the reason this never comes out of the blue is because it's based on wholesale prices over time. So we've had a certain amount of confidence that the price cap level was going to come down. And you're right, it's come down by nearly £250. That's about 12%. Let's put that in context. We're still paying over 50% more than we were paying before the crisis since Russia invaded Ukraine. So whilst there's cold comfort for British families, in the long term, we've got the same problem to sort out that we've had for 2 years, namely Britain's huge reliance on gas.
And that's the really important point, isn't it? We have no infrastructure, so we haven't planned ahead. We haven't actually built any power stations. We are remarkably bad at planning for the future.
Well, very, very quick analysis, simple analysis of why Britain is in such a bad situation with its energy. We, more than most countries, are reliant on gas. One, we use gas boilers to heat our very drafty homes. We have the oldest housing stock in Western Europe. And also, we have a huge amount of gas in our electricity mix. It's not just to heat our homes. 40% of gas in electricity in Britain is generated by gas.
To the price of gas, isn't it?
That as well. So all these things means we are hugely attached to gas. Now, what a government would do to unwind this reliance over time is quite straightforward. In terms of our domestic heating, you'd look to insulate homes and slowly roll out heat pumps. And in terms of our fuel mix, you do anything you can to help us use nuclear instead of gas and renewable whenever possible. That hasn't happened.
No.
Let's bring in Simon Francis on this. So a cut, which is good news on the face of things, Simon, but on already very, very high bills.
Yeah, absolutely. As we've just heard, you know, energy bills are still at that 50% higher than they were, at least 50% higher than they were back in 2021. And what that has meant is that over the last 3 years, the average household has spent £2,300 more on their energy than had we actually taken those measures, created a better energy system, such as we've just heard. And that totaled up means that across the UK, that's 68 billion quid. That households have had to find to pay for this. And a lot of that money, of course, has gone straight into the profits of firms like British Gas. And we had their profits published last week. We've had Scottish Power, Iberdrola's this week. These firms are doing very, very well out of the crisis, and households are being left in cold, damp homes. And they're also running up huge amounts of energy debt, 3 million households in debt to their suppliers, to the point that actually it contained within the price cap today is an extra 28 quid on everyone's bills to help cover the bad debt costs associated with the profits that have been made by the energy firms. So we're paying again for some of the problems that we are seeing in our energy system.
And just going back to you, Will, in terms of our energy mix, the government obviously is obsessed with this net zero and ensuring that we have net zero by 2035 or wherever it is now. But there is an article that this morning, which is about Rolls-Royce, threatening the government, saying if you don't get a move on, we're going to actually build our SMRs in Europe. We're not going to build them in the United Kingdom. So we need some really clever political thinking here and actually to get a move on with clean, green, cheap energy.
Spot on, spot on. And it's not a question of clever political thinking. It's a question of politicians sticking to doing what they said they were going to do.
Or thinking.
Right? So it's one thing if you say, look, we've decided to move the goalposts. We did have to have all people using heat pumps instead of gas boilers by this date. We're pushing it back by 5 years. Politically, that might seem like a good idea. But if you are in the business of manufacturing heat pumps, that is a disaster. You've planned around it. So the government, which should be a government that prides itself on creating good environments for business, has moved the goalposts too many times to enjoy the full confidence of business now.
And Simon, it's not just the government, though, is it? The Labour Party as well, because it's rode back on its warmer homes pledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and what we've seen is, and what we need to see is politicians of both parties and and other opposition parties coming together on this issue, because it is too important to be left to short-term politics. What we need is a real long-term plan, not just to create a better grid and better supplies of energy, like we just heard, but also to ensure that people have the confidence to upgrade their homes as well. All these schemes that keep chopping and changing their name and changing eligibility. What we need is to get a grip of the situation, come up with a 10-year plan that is going to see everyone given the support they need to make the improvements, to improve the energy efficiency of their home. Now, that could be interest-free loans for landlords in the private rented sector. It could be tax breaks for those people who own their own homes. It could be grants for those who really need it and are in fuel poverty, support for councils with local authority housing stock. So there's lots of things that we need to do, and all of that needs to be put together in a 10-year plan so that businesses can get behind it, the public can get behind it, and we can see a change to Britain's broken energy system.